what on earth have you got on your feet? Those shoes are so nerdy. At that moment, I really wished the ground would open up and swallow me. I was always getting picked on at school by the trendy kids. I couldn't help it that I loved studying and wanted to get the best grades I possibly could. You see, I wanted to be just like my dad. He's a very famous scientist. In fact, he was the man that invented the machine that can clone animals and even humans. One day, I would be a scientist too, and hopefully just as famous as my dad. Dad and I had a really special relationship because we both loved science. My brothers, Tom and Andrew, were more into sports, and my sister Amy wanted to be a fashion designer. I guess you could say I was Dad's favorite. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any more shocking stories. I walked past the group of kids that had teased me about my shoes and out of the school gate. I saw my sister waiting for me. "What's up, Neil?" she asked as she noticed my sad face. I shrugged my shoulders. "You know, the usual stuff," I said. "Everyone always teases me about the way I look and the clothes I wear." "Don't worry," she said. "I'm gonna help you do something about it. I'm going to give you a complete makeover." When we got home, Amy took me up to her room. "The first thing we're going to do is order you some new clothes." We sat together looking at all the online shops. Eventually, we had a whole new wardrobe chosen. The next thing she did was take me to a fancy men's hairdresser in town. I usually just let my mom cut my hair, so this was a whole new experience for me. I sat in the chair and the hairdresser handed me a bunch of magazines with hundreds of different hairstyles in it. I had no idea what would suit me, so I just told him to choose for me. I hardly recognized myself when I looked in the mirror. I looked like someone out of a boy band. I felt nervous walking into school the next morning. I was worried that people would laugh at me for trying to change my look, that they would still pick on me. But I had nothing to worry about at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I got compliments from everyone. Even the most popular kids told me I looked fantastic. Usually at lunchtime, I sat alone in the corner trying to avoid eye contact with everyone else. But now the kids asked me to join them on their table. Suddenly, I had become one of the popular kids. The girls laughed at my jokes and flirted with me. I couldn't believe how much things had changed. The only people who didn't seem happy with my transformation were my own brothers. They didn't like the fact that I was so popular now. Actually, I think they were jealous of me. "Oh, don't we think we're Mr. Popular now?" said Tom when he saw me sitting with a group of girls. I couldn't understand what his problem was. Tom and Andrew both had girlfriends, so that couldn't be the reason. There was only a year between the two of them, and they were really close. They both started dating at the same time, and the four of them went everywhere together. I just hoped that one day they would be happy for me. In the meantime, I was just enjoying being able to go to school and be happy. I was still doing well with my grades, but now that I looked trendy, nobody seemed to care that I was clever too. I felt like there was nothing that could ruin it for me. But I had no idea what was going to happen next. I could sense that something was wrong the minute I walked into my house. Tom was sitting slumped over the kitchen table with his head in his hands. Andrew had his arm around him. "What's the matter, Tom?" I asked. Tom didn't look up or answer me, and Andrew ignored me too. "His girlfriend has dumped him," Amy whispered in my ear. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry," I said. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yes, you can stay away from me," shouted Tom. I was shocked at the way he had spoken to me, but I put it down to him being upset. I felt sure that he didn't mean it. That night as I lay in bed, I could hear Tom sobbing in the next room. It broke my heart that he was feeling so sad and there was nothing I could do about it. The next day at school, I saw Tom's now ex-girlfriend. She was talking to a group of her friends. She didn't look sad at all. She was laughing and looking like she didn't have a care in the world. As I got nearer to them, she looked at me. "Hi, Neil," she said, batting her eyelashes. If I didn't know better, I would have thought she was flirting with me. Surely she wouldn't do that, I thought. But it seemed like that was exactly what she was doing, because the next time I saw her, she came over to me and said, "Would you like to go on a date with me, Neil?" Of course I said no. I would never do that to one of my brothers, especially when I knew Tom was hurting so badly. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to ask me. Wait until I let Tom know exactly what kind of girl she was. Once he knew what she had done, I felt sure that he wouldn't be so brokenhearted. But I was wrong. I told Tom that she had asked me out, but instead of him saying what a terrible thing for her to do, He blamed me. "You were probably flirting with her all the time behind my back," he screamed at me. "No, I wasn't," I replied. "How could you even think that I would do something like that?" "Because you just want everyone to like you. I wish you would go back to being my nerdy brother again." Andrew took Tom's side. He didn't believe that I was the innocent party. After that, they didn't include me in anything they did. One Saturday night, I was sitting alone in my room playing on my computer when I heard the front door slam. I looked out of my bedroom window. Tom and Andrew were walking down the street together. They were all dressed up in their best clothes. I wondered where they were going. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. I picked it up and saw it was a message from Amy. "Where are you?" she had written. "At home. Why?" "Aren't you coming to the party?" "What party?" It turned out that one of the kids at school was having a huge birthday party at a fancy hotel in town. Everyone had been invited. My brothers had hidden my invitation and not told me anything about it. It was almost midnight when I heard them come home. They were laughing as they walked up the street to our house. I wanted to confront them, but I knew it would only make things worse. The best thing I could do was to pretend I wasn't bothered. Anyway, I had my own little secret too. I had started dating one of the prettiest girls in school. Her name was Lucy. She was in the same year as me. The first time I saw her, I fell in love. She had big blue eyes and long blonde curly hair. She was so cute and really funny too. We had been on a couple of dates already. I really wanted to ask her to be my girlfriend. I was meeting her Friday night. We were going to the movies and then for a pizza, so I decided that I would ask her then. Friday night came and I went into town. I felt really nervous. I really hoped that she would want to be exclusive with me. I stood outside the cinema. 10 minutes went by and she was nowhere to be seen. I kept on looking up and down the street, but there was no sign of her. I wondered where on earth she could be. Another 10 minutes went by and then another. Finally, I realized that she wasn't going to come. I felt so disappointed. I'd been looking forward to our date all week. When I got home, I called her, but she didn't answer her phone. The next morning, I tried to call her again, but she still didn't answer. I began to worry that something might have happened to her. I decided I would go to her house. When I got there, her brother answered the door. "Is Lucy here?" I asked him. "She doesn't want to see you," he said, "and you'd better stay away from her or you'll be getting trouble from me." "Why?" I asked. We were getting on so well. "She knows all about you and Rachel. Tom and Andrew told her you've been two-timing her." "That's not true. My brothers are just trying to ruin my life because they're jealous of me." But he didn't believe a word I said. He slammed the door in my face. I had no choice but to go back home. When I got there, I went upstairs and straight into my brother's room. "Why did you tell Lucy I've been dating Rachel?" I asked them. "Now she never wants to see me again." They just looked at me and laughed. It seemed like they didn't care about my feelings at all. I went to my room and climbed into bed. I lay there wondering what I could do to get them to like me again, but I couldn't think of anything. Eventually, I dozed off to sleep. I woke up and looked around. Where am I thought. I wasn't in my bedroom. I was sitting on a chair and was tied down with chains. There was just a small window high up on one wall. I couldn't see anything except the sky. I had no idea how I had got there. Suddenly, the door opened. A boy about my age was standing in the doorway. I looked at him in shock. He looked exactly like me. It almost felt as though I was looking in a mirror. We were so alike. The next thing I saw were my two brothers, Tom and Andrew, standing beside the boy. "Help me," I shouted to them. "Someone has chained me to this chair." But they just laughed at me. "We're not going to help you," they laughed. "We're the ones who put you there." I looked at them in shock. "Why would you do something like that? And who is he?" I said, pointing at the boy. That's when they revealed exactly what they had done. They told me that I had ruined their lives and they hated me for it. So they had gone into Dad's laboratory and made a clone of me. But they had made the clone so he would be nerdy, not popular like me. "We kidnapped you and brought you here so you're out of our way," Andrew said. "We are going to replace you with the clone," said Tom. "You can't do that," I cried. "You can't leave me here." But they just walked out of the room, leaving me with the clone. There was nothing I could do. I knew that it was hopeless. I was going to be stuck in that room for the rest of my life. I stared at the clone for some time, and the clone stared back at me. It was crazy seeing the exact version of myself. He was dressed up, so he was a more nerdy version of me. like how I had looked before. I felt helpless. There was nothing I could do. But then the clone did something I wasn't expecting. He came over and started undoing the locks on my chains. "Come on, quick," he said. "I'm going to help you escape." I had no idea what we were going to do next, but I just followed the clone as he ran down the street. Eventually, we came to a park and sat on a bench. "We don't have much time," he said. "We need to come up with a plan, quickly." We sat together and thought about what we should do. Then it came to me. I would go back to my family and pretend that I was the clone. The clone was happy with my decision. He didn't want to be a nerd. He wanted to be a popular kid. We agreed that the clone would leave and explore the world. "I think I might go check out the Bahamas," he said. I smiled and wished him good luck. We waved goodbye and I set off back to my house. When I got there, Tom and Andrew were in the lounge watching a movie. "Do you want to watch the movie with us, Neil?" they asked, believing I was the clone. I was about to say yes, but then I remembered. No thanks. I want to go to my room and do some studying," I told them. Tom and Andrew smiled at each other. They were happy now that they thought they had got the old Neil back. I went back to wearing the old style and clothes that I used to wear. The kids at school began to tease me a bit, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I am now stuck having to pretend I'm this clone of myself. I don't know what to do. If I tell my parents, they'll no doubt tell my brothers, and then they might do something even worse to me. What should I do? Please help me out and leave your suggestions down in the comments below.